For we are the Hammer!
Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Daemonhunters is not the game I expected it to be. As part of my ongoing review series on XCOM likes, I assumed it would be XCOM with a Warhammer 40k coat of paint. On the surface, this does make sense. Turn-based combat with a cover system? Check. A sprawling campaign with squad management? Check. A ticking clock as the threat escalates? Check. But the deeper I got into Daemonhunters, the clearer it became that this game has its own distinct identity. From its breathtaking Warhammer aesthetics to some genuinely unique gameplay twists, it stands firmly on its own ground. But is that distinct identity actually good? Well, after spending a lot of time commanding my squad of power-armored purifiers, I have thoughts, a lot of them. So let's talk about what works, what doesn't, what's frustrating, and where this game stands in the grand battlefield of tactical strategy games. The first thing that struck me about this game was just how unique the game's visual style is. It looks amazing. But let's be real, it's Warhammer 40k, a universe with an inherently incredible and iconic aesthetic. You'd have to try to make it look bad. Enormous ships covered in skulls, intricate religious symbols, stoic tech priests, formidable inquisitors, and of course, the Grey Knights. Just look at them. How awesome is this guy? One very interesting choice was making Nurgle's forces the primary antagonist. He's not the most popular Chaos God, but he's got a distinct vibe, a twisted grandfather figure to his followers, oddly nurturing in a grotesque way. His armies are a revolting masterpiece. Bloated, pus-filled monstrosities, sickly grins, grotesque tentacles, and unsettling organic corruption. It's disgusting yet captivating, and it's executed beautifully. The variety in environments also caught me off guard. Majestic emperor worshipping cathedrals, war-torn battlefields littered with ultramarine remnants, planets mid-invasion by Xenos, fully Nurgle-infested wastelands, even Eldari architecture makes an appearance. It's all here. Not once did I feel like I was replaying the same map. Massive props to the designers. But now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Up close, character models look odd. Stiff faces, janky animations, movement that feels like they've been dunked in glue. It's almost like they are dolls, or rather figurines. See where I'm going with this? Yep, this was absolutely an intentional design choice. Every single model is crafted to resemble Warhammer 40k tabletop miniatures, down to near one-to-one level of detail. The devs went full meta with this, and once I got used to it, I couldn't help but appreciate the homage. I mean, just look at this guy run. It's so cute yet cool. One unfortunate side effect of this commitment to authenticity is the lack of customization. It makes sense. These are Grey Knights, a legendary space marine chapter with a strict look and gear defined by the lore. They can be painted red, green, or made to resemble an ultramarine. The devs gave us some minor customization options, a different helmet here, a slightly altered pauldron there. But these choices are so limited that it's genuinely hard to distinguish one soldier from another. You can't even give them nicknames. No Steve the Flamer or Dave the Shield Bro. You just have to memorize who's who. Chaos Gate Daemonhunters isn't just about looking cool on the outside. The gameplay mechanics are where it truly distinguishes itself. At first glance, everything feels familiar. You command a squad of 4 soldiers, each with 3 action points per turn. A system that feels closer to the original 1994 XCOM than its modern counterparts. These points are spent moving, taking cover, and using abilities like grenades, psychic powers, or of course, shooting. And this is where things get interesting. Unlike most tactical games, every shot in Daemonhunters always hits. That's right, 100% hit chance. Damage has a fall-off with distance, but you'll never have to endure the soul-crushing frustration of missing a point-blank 90% shot. This philosophy extends to most abilities too. Grenades land exactly where you aim, hitting everyone in the radius. Even damage is consistent. If a weapon deals 5 damage, it deals 5 damage. No guesswork, no variance. These couple of changes completely alter the flow of combat. The result is a refreshingly strategic experience, where precision and planning takes center stage. You're not praying to the RNG gods. You're calculating exact damage, positioning your squad with surgical precision, and dismantling enemies with ruthless efficiency. You always know what will happen, giving you full control over your squad's actions. And when something goes wrong, you can't blame bad luck, only yourself. That said, randomness hasn't been completely eradicated. Critical hits, for example, function as expected, based on chance. But even here, the game adds a unique twist, the precise targeting system. When you land a critical strike, you can choose exactly where to hit your enemy. Chop off an arm with a weapon, that grenade spammer is now a sad melee boy. Smash a leg, they're hobbled. It not only adds another layer of depth to the combat, but it's also just satisfying. The base game features 4 main classes. Justicars are bulky tanks that disrupt enemies in melee. Purgators are ranged DPS units wielding flamethrowers, machine guns and cannons. Interceptors are melee assassins that basically are
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
and apothecaries, support units who heal and buff by stabbing their allies with a drill. Later you unlock advanced classes, paladins, purifiers, chaplains and librarians, each enhancing the core playstyle. There are also hero characters, pre-designed units tied to the story. While they're strong, they're only available on specific missions. In the base game, you'll occasionally deploy an Inquisitor alongside your squad, and the DLCs add a tech priest for a handful of missions. These heroes join as a 5th member, adding diversity without replacing your core team.
You'll need to do far more than that.
Enemies don't disappoint either. The game features a diverse roster, each with unique abilities that force you to adapt. Some enemies drain your action points, others place plague zones, and some bypass your armor. There are bulky tanks, full support units, mobile threats, and even mechanical horrors. Each encounter feels distinct, and learning how to counter them keeps the combat dynamic and engaging. Overall, the lineup for both your squad and the enemies is solid, offering plenty of variety and unique gameplay. That said, it feels like there's room for more. And thankfully, more has been done. DLCs expand on this, adding even more class options and unique enemies. But I'll dive into those details in a separate section dedicated to the DLCs. Like many games in the genre, Chaos Gate Daemonhunters gives you a base of operations to manage. In this case, the Strike Cruiser Baleful Edict. An enormous ship full of statues, skulls and gargantuan libraries. This is where you interact with your squad, customize your loadouts, talk to key characters, conduct research and upgrade the edict itself. The base management is engaging, though it doesn't break new ground. You can construct various facilities on the ship, some of which are genuinely useful, like faster healing for your soldiers. Other projects, however, feel like afterthoughts. Upgrading the ship's armor and weapons, for example, is meant to help with space combat against enemy ships. But you can usually just avoid those encounters by planning your course carefully. Across my entire campaign, I think I only had one real space battle. Research follows a similar pattern, though it's arguably even less impactful. You won't unlock new weapons or armor here. Instead, it mostly unlocks stratagems, special abilities you can use during missions. A handful of these are game changers, offering powerful tactical options. But most are underwhelming. And since you can only equip 4 at a time out of a total of 18, research ends up feeling redundant. Once you found your favorite 4, the rest might as well not exist. So, the game is fun, visually interesting and packed with unique mechanics and diversity. Why then isn't it more widely known? Why does it sit at just 77 positive reviews on Steam? What's with all the frustration and the negative reviews? As much as Chaos Gate Daemonhunters shines in its visual style and tactical precision, it has some clear drawbacks, and it's time to talk about them. Let's start with something small but ever present, the UI. Overall, it's clunky and not very intuitive. HP bars, for example, are just small green lines with no actual numbers. You have to hover over a unit to see their actual HP. This kind of design is everywhere, and it adds unnecessary friction to the experience. Then there's the issue of descriptions, or lack thereof. Many abilities have vague or incomplete explanations. Afflict Silence sounds useful, but what does silence actually do? Good question. This is particularly bad as the game is packed with status effects and afflictions, some of which sound way too similar. Stunned and incapacitated, pinned and hobbled, purge and purify. It is so frustrating because Daemonhunters actually has an in-game encyclopedia with all this information. It is just hidden. You have to dig through the settings menu to even realize it exists. Otherwise, it's trial and error. Now for one of my biggest gripes, the pacing. Nearly every in-game action is followed by an unskippable close-up animation. It's cool the first few times, seeing your squad up close, feeling the impact, but after hundreds of times, it's just tiresome. And while there's an option to speed up enemy turns, there's nothing to speed up your own units or skip these constant animations. Why? Did the machine spirit personally forbid it? Did no one on the dev team play for more than a few hours and think, hey, maybe this gets annoying? On a typical mission, I'd say at least a third of the time is spent not playing, just watching. It's a pace killer, and it drags the whole experience down. This slowness only deepens by the game's repetitiveness. Once you've mastered the mechanics, learn the enemy types, and build a solid squad, the gameplay can start to feel like a slog. There's less surprise, less tension. And then there are the missions that are just not that fun. Something about their design just doesn't click. I wouldn't say I hated any of the missions in the vanilla game, but every now and then you get one that just isn't as engaging, and you find yourself hoping it ends as quickly as possible. This brings me to the core issue most players seem to have: frustration. Many players find the game overly punishing, grim and difficult. It's full of mechanics that feel anti-fun, like the ones I've just described. But is it really as bad as it seems? Let's dig deeper. First, there's the choice system. Throughout the game, you'll be presented with dilemmas, disputes between factions, strategic decisions, unforeseen crises. The problem is that the choices are usually between bad and bad. No matter what you pick, the outcome is negative. Sometimes there's a trade-off, like gaining construction speed, but losing research efficiency. But more often than not, it just feels like you're picking the least painful punishment. You can't roleplay or make choices that feel right. It turns decision-making into damage control rather than something meaningful. The world map adds to this tension. When new missions appear, you'll never be able to complete them all. At best, you'll manage 2 out of 3, often just 1. If you're in a bad spot, you might be forced to skip everything. And when you don't complete a mission, the plague spreads, making future battles harder. This creates a snowball effect. A few failures can spiral into more failures, as the enemy grows stronger while you don't. And eventually, there's a total campaign loss.
Only in death does duty end, Inquisitor. Can we...
Oh, it ends. The bloom flowers. The galaxy infected by plague. I have failed. We have all failed. And Nurgle claims his tally.
May the Emperor forgive us. We have tarnished the chapter with our failure.
One of the DLCs makes this even worse, introducing tougher missions way too early. But again, I'll save the discussion for the DLC section. On the battlefield, the game is just as ruthless. Enemies are numerous, strong and relentless. They patrol the map, call in reinforcements and hit hard.
Eat this!
To make things worse, there's the warp surge system. Depending on the planet's infection level, the warp surge meter fills each turn. Faster if you use psychic abilities. When it maxes out, a random negative effect triggers. Warp surges can range from mildly annoying to downright brutal, giving enemies free armor and disabling key abilities. You're essentially punished for playing the game, using abilities and ending your turn. And this is where the main point lies. You see, the game isn't just doing this for the sake of it. It actively punishes defensive turtling, pushing you toward a specific playstyle. Aggressive, fast and decisive. The game wants you to charge headfirst into enemy lines, smash through Overwatch and crush your foes like the heretic bugs they are. Sure, you'll take casualties, but that's the price of serving the Emperor.
My watch shall not fail.
What supports this aggressive playstyle as intentional design choice is the way Grey Knights handle death, or rather, the lack of it. At least not immediately. Each Grey Knight has a pool of resilience points. When a knight hits 0 HP in combat, they become critically injured and are out of action for 3 turns. Back at the base, they lose 1 resilience point as part of their recovery. Interestingly, if you have a special facility build, surviving a critical injury also grants the knight an augmentation, a permanent buff. So, charging headfirst and letting your knights get critically injured isn't just manageable, it can actually be beneficial. However, if a knight reaches 0 resilience, they die for good. This system already encourages a bolder playstyle, but the real game changer is action point refresh. Whenever you encounter a new group of enemies, your squad gets a full AP refresh and an automatic reload. The same happens when you wipe out all active enemies. The implications of this mechanic are massive. You can spend all your AP taking actions, trigger an enemy pod with your last move, get a full refresh, wipe them out, refresh again, and keep going. In some cases, you can even chain multiple pods together, racking up 50 plus actions in what's technically a single turn. During this time, warp surges don't occur, enemies don't get a chance to act, and mission timers stay frozen. This is critical information. Understanding and exploiting this mechanic is essential. It defines combat.
The fiends have been put down.
There's even more. If you execute a stunned enemy with precise targeting, every Grey Knight in your squad gains 1 AP. This stacks with action point refresh, letting you extend turns even further. The faster and more aggressive you are, the more you benefit from these mechanics. It rewards bold, high-risk tactics, pushing you to take calculated risks instead of turtling in the corner. On top of all that, often you can and should just rush objectives. It might feel weird, but the most optimal strategy usually is to just ignore enemies and destroy the objective. You're not here to banish every single demon. That can be done. You're here for a purpose, and that should be your primary focus. Most missions end the moment you complete the objective, no matter how many enemies are left. At times, I just ran compositions that had a single damage dealer that everyone buffed, and they just killed the objective.
Get down!
Job well done, Commander.
Even boss fights can be approached this way. Why bother engaging with their gimmicks when you can just buff a single powerhouse unit, give them extra AP and melt the boss in 2 turns? It's a little cheap, but it's also undeniably cool to see a super soldier tear through everything in its path. I also suspect this is a side effect of playing on normal difficulty. On higher difficulties, I imagine you'd need 3 turns instead of 2. Or maybe even be forced to engage with the boss gimmicks. So yeah, while the game has its fair share of punishing and frustrating mechanics, I think the core issue many players have is that they don't get it. They come in expecting an XCOM reskin, playing cautiously, turtling up, avoiding all damage. And then they get frustrated when that approach doesn't work. This isn't XCOM. It's designed around aggression, momentum and seizing control of the battlefield before the enemy even gets a turn. So when people complain about the game being unfair, I don't think that's really the issue. At its core, Daemonhunters isn't frustrating, it's demanding. It demands that you learn its systems, pay attention to its mechanics, and use them to your advantage. If you do, it's an incredibly rewarding experience. If you don't, well, you're in for a rough time. I've already touched on this a bit, but let's get into it more. The difficulty. The game offers 4 difficulty levels. Merciful is for an easier experience. Standard is the intended difficulty for most players, while Ruthless provides a step up in challenge. And then there's Legendary, a mode that seems designed purely for masochists. From everything I've seen, 99% of players should not even consider Legendary, especially for their first playthrough. After seeing so many reviews calling the game punishing, frustrating and unfairly hard, along with people outright recommending against playing on higher difficulties, I decided to play on Standard. As a strategy game, Daemonhunters demands careful planning both on and off the battlefield. Building a well-designed squad is essential. If you can spot strong synergies between characters, abilities and items, you will have a better time. Some stats are just incredibly important. Take extra range, for example. At first glance, it just lets you shoot from further away. But remember how damage in this game is constant, with only a fall-off based on distance. More range means you're attacking from an optimal distance more often, effectively increasing your damage across the board. It's simple math, and it makes range one of the most valuable stats in the game. I found a tier 1 item early on that boosted range, and it became a permanent fixture in my squad. For the entire campaign, every ranged damage dealer took it, no exceptions. Another major factor is healing. The Apothecary class is almost entirely dedicated to healing and buffing, and their healing servo skulls are incredibly strong and free, requiring no action points. On top of that, there are 2 healing-focused stratagems that I rushed to unlock. Because of this, I actually quite rarely suffered critical injuries. There was always a way to patch my squad up before things got dire. So what I'm trying to say with this is that if you build your characters properly, equip them with synergistic items and pair them with teammates who complement their strengths, everything just clicks. And if you also understand and fully take advantage of the game's mechanics, you'll do just fine. I can absolutely see why so many players call this game brutal and punishing, and why people warn against starting on Ruthless. But personally, once I got the hang of the mechanics, it stopped being all that challenging fairly quickly. That said, I might be talking out of my ass. If I had gone with Ruthless, I might be singing a very different tune. Unfortunately, you can't change the difficulty mid-campaign. I would have if I could. So, if you're experienced with similar games and looking for a challenge, I'd actually recommend starting on Ruthless. It's tough, but it might be just the right level of painfully satisfying for you.
Good. examine this corpse and...
Alright, let's talk story and world building. But honestly, I'm not entirely sure how to approach this section. I don't want to spend too much time dissecting the narrative for two reasons. First, the story isn't the main focus of the game. And more importantly, Warhammer lore is a lot. It's dense, intricate and overwhelming if you're not already deep into it.
For in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
I could go into the Grey Knights, the Bloom and why Nurgle's forces are so horrifying. But let's be real, either I oversimplify it or I drown you in a warp storm of obscure terminology.
The prognosticars on Titan have augured the advent of a dire omen in that very system. They spoke of a black edifice, a vortex of foul malevolence.
Preliminary estimation, Nocturith Crown.
Not great either way. So instead, I'll just provide a quick overview, the setup, the key moments, and what I think of it all.
Excellent. We have no time to waste.
The game opens with a Grey Knight strike force locked in a battle against the forces of Khorne, led by a bloodthirster, an embodiment of pure rage and destruction.
Blood for the blood god! Skulls for the skull!
Their captain steps forward, engaging the demon in a desperate duel. But it quickly becomes clear that the demon is too powerful to be defeated conventionally. With no other choice, the captain sacrifices himself to banish the creature, setting the tone for the entire game. Fighting chaos is never easy, and victory always comes at a cost. This is what the Grey Knights are all about. They are not just any space marines. They are an elite and secret order created by the Emperor himself. Warriors uniquely gifted with psychic abilities and sworn to one purpose: combating the demonic forces of chaos. What makes them truly exceptional is their unshakable purity. In the grim history of the Imperium, not a single Grey Knight has ever fallen to chaos. They are the best of the best, incorruptible warriors who stand as humanity's last line of defense against the horrors of the warp.
Tactics.
After the battle, the battered strike force begins its journey back to their home planet, Titan, to regroup and repair their ship, the Baleful Edict. This is where you, the player, step in as the commander.
We sail for Titan on your word, Commander.
Much like in XCOM, you're treated as an actual character within the game, with the crew addressing you directly and relying on your leadership.
What say you, Commander? Are we finished here?
Before the ship can reach Titan though, Inquisitor Karta Vakir commandeers the vessel, convinced that a dangerous plague is spreading through the sector.
I must commandeer this vessel at once.
This plague, known as the Bloom, is the work of Nurgle, the plague god. A bit reluctantly, the Grey Knights join forces with her to investigate the outbreak. This is where the main gameplay loop kicks in. You deploy your squads to infected planets, purging chaos forces, gathering clues, and containing the Bloom's spread, all while trying to repair the ship and replenish your dwindling forces. As you fight the Bloom, you get to know the ship's key figures. One of the first things I noticed is that I actually enjoyed the characters in this game. They aren't particularly deep, but it's Warhammer, they don't need to be. Each major character represents a different faction aboard the Baleful Edict, and their clashing perspectives. Knight Purifier Hector represents the Grey Knights. He embodies the Grey Knight's zealous devotion to purging chaos. His approach is straightforward. Burn the bloom with holy fire first and ask questions never.
This abomination serves the plague god. He must be exterminated immediately.
Inquisitor Vakir is the polar opposite of Hector.
I would rather we simply purge them.
That is the difference between us, Purifier. You are the hammer, but I am the one with the burden to wield it.
Her goal is the same, eradicate the plague, but her methods are far more calculated and at times controversial. She is driven by a desire to understand the bloom, even if it means delving into dangerous, borderline heretical research. This clash of ideologies leads to frequent and often heated conflicts.
You listen to voices in the Sea of Souls?
You object to my methods, Knight?
You are only human. You walk a dangerous path.
Then there's the ship's tech priest, Lynette.
This petty dueling is unproductive.
Easily my favorite. Unlike the others, she isn't driven by faith, duty or zealotry. She doesn't really care about the Grey Knight's mission or the Inquisition's goals. To her, the Baleful Edict is what matters. A relic of ancient battles, a machine spirit to be maintained and respected. To her, this campaign is just another chapter in the ship's long existence.
But remember, the Baleful Edict is my chief concern. Be careful with this ship.
She adds a very unique flavor to the narrative, as she brings her logic and no-nonsense pragmatism into a dialogue between two zealous and emotionally driven parties. And I love it.
This conversation vector is unproductive.
Her detached, logical mindset contrasts beautifully with the passionate fervor of Hector and Vakir.
I am a priest of Mars. Sentimentality is for the flesh.
Beyond the character dynamics, the story is still full with memorable moments that raise the stakes and keep things exciting. At one point, your forces find themselves completely outmatched, facing certain doom with no hope of victory or escape. Then, out of nowhere, Elder Drago himself appears to save the day. If you don't know, Drago isn't just some random character. He's the Supreme Grandmaster of the Grey Knights, one of the most powerful warriors in the Imperium, wielding one of the mightiest swords in existence. He's also been trapped in the realm of chaos for the past century, only occasionally manifesting in real space during moments of dire need. Seeing him show up in the game like this, completely unexpected and very, very cool.
I will clear this warp's interference so that you may return to your ship. Now go, in the Emperor's name.
Teleportation lock acquired.
For the Emperor!
As the story unfolds further, you learn that the bloom is being driven by 5 Plague Reapers. Massive, terrifying monsters and actual boss fights. They are 2 different Great Unclean Ones, a Chaos Knight, a demonic siege engine, and a monstrous Chaos Spawn. Each one is a unique challenge, and taking them down feels like a major victory. It is really satisfying to beat such legendary enemies as that. And again, incredible designs, straight from the tabletop. The narrative takes another dramatic turn when you discover that the only way to truly destroy the bloom is to sever its roots inside the realm of chaos itself.
A network of roots, reaching directly from the Garden of Nurgle. Sever these roots, and the seeds will wither. The bloom will dwindle and perish.
Not exactly an easy task. What a pickle. It would have been really great if there was someone already in the warp. Maybe even a Grey Knight. Someone extremely powerful with the means to banish this corruption at its source.
A mighty shield against the coming darkness.
A plan forms. You reach out to Drago, informing him of what must be done. But oh, an even greater problem. This was all a trap set up by Nurgle, designed specifically to lure Drago into the clutches of chaos. With no alternative, you and your forces plunge into the warp in a daring attempt to rescue him. And this is where Mortarion enters the picture. Again, not just any villain, the Prince of Decay himself, the greatest demon prince of Nurgle, and the demon primarch of the Death Guard. Yes, that Mortarion, a true monster and a legend.
The Morbus is at hand!
Finally, the story culminates in a climactic mission, where you actually get to control Drago himself. And what the hell is this? I expected a legendary warrior, a godlike force wielding an awe-inspiring weapon. Instead, Drago feels like a surprisingly average Grey Knight. One of his abilities lets him grant 1 action point to 4 allies by spending his entire turn. There is literally a dude beside him who can give an ally 3 action points by using only 1 himself. And his legendary Titan Sword?
No purer blade has ever existed.
Don't kid me, it deals 8 damage. Meanwhile, I have regular weapons dealing 6 and 7. He doesn't have much health, doesn't hit like a truck, and doesn't come with any overpowered skills. How the hell did he survive in the warp for a century? Brother Interceptor Storm would have had better chances than him. This is a minor gripe, as he is in the game only for a single mission. But he was so hyped up to just have this. What a letdown. In the end, despite some flaws, I enjoyed the story. It has interesting characters, unexpected twists, and plenty of tension. The stakes feel real, the battles are epic, and the reveals are genuinely surprising. Huge demons, heroic sacrifices, betrayal, redemption. It's everything you'd want from a Warhammer 40k story. And this comes from someone who isn't really into Warhammer. If you are a fan or just love a good sci-fi tale, I believe this game delivers.
We are the Hammer.
DLCs. Oh, how I love DLCs. What game today releases without additional content? Certainly not this one. Chaos Gate Daemonhunters has 3 DLCs. Are any of them worth it? Should you buy the bundle? Or is it just a cash grab? Let's find out.
In Warhammer 40,000, Chaos Gate Daemonhunters.
Before talking about paid DLCs, I want to give a shout out to the game's post-release support as a whole. Many games launch in a messy state, push out a few DLCs and call it a day. Daemonhunters isn't one of them. It had an active post-launch life with plenty of updates, mostly fixing issues and refining gameplay. From what I can see, they succeeded. The game today is in a much better state than it was at release. Some updates even added content in what you could call free DLCs. New equipment, a ton of new enemies, maps and even an entirely new mission type. Patient gamers win again. Now onto the main show, paid DLCs. DLC 1, Castellan Champion Pack. This DLC contains a new unit and the game soundtrack. The soundtrack is cool if you're into that, but I'm all about gameplay. The unit is Castellan Garan Crow, an established character from the lore, a legendary warrior wielding an incredibly unique sword. Despite being a major lore character, he isn't integrated into the story at all. No cutscenes, no dialogue, not even a single comment from anyone. He just shows up with a pop-up message saying, "Hey, this super strong knight joined you." And that's it. He's just there. Also, he can't be customized. Not his skills, not his appearance, not even his loadout. He's locked into his lore-accurate tabletop model design. When Crow first joins, he's a powerhouse, easily outclassing your early game knights. But since he doesn't evolve, he gradually falls behind. By the endgame, he's still solid, but no longer overpowered. You can get this incredible 1-unit DLC bundled with the game for an extra $10, or buy it separately for $15. $15 for a single unit! What a deal!
This is not a banger. This is not a banger, and I know bangers. I know bangers.
Don't buy this on its own. Only even consider it if you're getting the full bundle with all the DLCs. DLC 2, Duty Eternal. This one is much better, but still weird in places. It adds a lot, but some design choices are questionable. Let's start with the good stuff. Duty Eternal introduces the Tech Marine class, and oh my god, do they look cool! Machine-like plating, gear-shaped pauldrons, mechanical arms loaded with tools. They're a visual treat. Gameplay-wise, Tech Marines are unlike anything I've seen in these types of games. They're essentially summoners, deploying servitors to fight alongside them. You can deploy up to 4 servitors, each with different abilities, from stunning enemies to blasting them apart with plasma cannons. If a servitor dies, who cares? They're expendable and simply get replaced next mission. It's a unique playstyle and I think it's fun. I used my Tech Marines a lot and enjoyed them. Although it is different, so I can see some players not enjoying it as much. The DLC also adds a venerable Grey Knight Dreadnought. This towering war machine is as awesome as it sounds. Devastating firepower, huge health, and the ability to plow through enemies like they're nothing. It's fantastic. But there's a catch. You can only deploy the Dreadnought on special Technophage missions, which is already a weird choice, as it means that you are locked out of your best and most fun unit for most of the game. But things get even more problematic. Technophage missions are harder than regular ones, stronger enemies, severe warp surges, and more punishing penalties for ignoring them. Enemies are stronger, but you can deploy a dreadnought to counteract that, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? Well, no. These missions start appearing way before you get the dreadnought. Early on, when your squad is weak and resources are scarce, you're forced to tackle these brutal missions or face severe penalties. This is a baffling design choice and a major frustration for many players, rightfully so. If Technophage missions only appeared after you got the dreadnought, this wouldn't be an issue. But that's not how it works, is it? It doesn't ruin the game, but it's definitely a problem. The Duty Eternal also adds a frigate, a secondary ship that lets you send squads on missions without playing them out. A fantastic quality of life feature that adds more strategic depth. And yet, another weird design choice. The frigate only appears late in the game. So late that I used it maybe 4 times before finishing my campaign. It would have been much more useful 30 hours earlier. DLC 3 Execution Force. This one adds 4 new classes, Imperial Assassins from the official Assassinorium. They're nothing like the Grey Knights, not even being Space Marines, playing more like glass cannons. They are not as tanky, have only 1 resilience point, but compensate with high damage output and incredible utility. The classes are Vindicare Assassin, the Sniper. Grey Knights don't have true snipers, so this was a much needed addition. He boasts a huge range with no damage fall-off, making him very strong. As a known sniper enthusiast in these types of games, I loved him. He is just as good as you'd expect.
Die.
Kalidos Assassin, the Shapeshifter. She can disguise as enemies, making them completely ignore her. She also has a few abilities that cost nothing. No action points, no willpower, just cooldowns. Some even work while disguised. Extremely useful.
Kneel and be judged.
Calexus Assassin, the Anti-Psyker. In the lore, they are feared by everyone, and the game does them justice. Completely immune to psychic attacks, can nullify enemies, reduce warp charge, attack through walls, and even close warp rifts to completely deny enemy reinforcements. Insanely strong.
Unleashing my eye.
Eversor Assassin, the Psycho Melee Killer. Even though I love snipers, this was my favorite class in the game. This Psycho deals huge melee damage but sacrifices his own health to do so. He burns his HP for extra action points, increased damage and other benefits. To balance that out, he heals whenever he kills in melee. The constant trade-off between self-damage and rushing headfirst into enemies for a kill and heal loop is a perfect risk-reward balance. Chef's kiss.
Paralysis.
On top of this, the DLC adds 2 new mission types, boarding actions and Tentarus Hive. I don't have much to say about boarding action, because in my 60-hour campaign I only had 1, and it was okay, nothing to write home about, or to make a video about. The Tentarus Hive, on the other hand, oh, I have a few words about this one. This mission type contains what might be some of the worst game design decisions in the entire game, and some of the worst I've seen in recent years at all. It goes against almost everything this game stands for. It is a nightmare.
To purge this vile enemy once and for all.
There's a hive in the center of the map, constantly summoning reinforcements and attacking your entire squad every turn. So, just charge in and kill it as fast as possible, right? Well, of course not! It is immortal! To make it vulnerable, you first need to destroy 5 hive germs scattered across the map. Okay, that's rough, but I get the idea. The goal seems to be a race against time, rushing to eliminate the germs while using the AP refresh mechanic to get from encounter to encounter. This way, the hive would not have enough time to do too much damage and summon too many oh wait, it doesn't work. Because the hive has a global attack, you are always in combat with it, and thus can't actually clear the enemies to activate the AP refresh. One of the most important mechanics in the game just simply doesn't work here. Why? Who the hell designed this? It's so anti-player and anti-fun that I can't even explain just how awful these missions were. How did this get approved? Did no one ask, is this actually okay? Is this fun? Just how? Thankfully, it's a rarer mission type and often can be ignored without major consequences. Despite that disaster, Execution Force is still a great DLC. The assassins are fantastic. Each class is unique, well designed and incredibly fun to use. And while the Tentarus Hive mission should be studied in how not to do game design courses, it doesn't ruin the whole DLC.
The threat is vanquished. Well done, Commander. We will...
The verdict. So, we've got one bad and, frankly, unnecessary DLC. One with a mixed bag of pros and cons, and one that's generally great. A weird but okay selection. Should you buy them? The full game plus DLC bundle costs $81. The base game alone is $45, so you're paying nearly double for the DLCs, without getting anywhere near double the content. Even on sale, the base game drops down to $13.50, while the DLC bundle is $30. That's not cheap. And honestly, considering everything, I'm not sure if the cost is justified. Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Daemonhunters is a tactics game that knows exactly what it wants to be, and for the most part, succeeds. It's not trying to be just another XCOM clone. Instead, it delivers a faster, meaner tactical experience that thrives on aggression and forces you to adapt to its unique, often brutal rule set. While not necessarily groundbreaking, it rarely feels lazy, executing its vision with solid, engaging core systems that truly capture the grim dark essence of the 41st millennium. But it's not all bolters and glory. There's jank. There are missions that'll make you question the Emperor's plan, and questionable DLCs can dampen the experience. Still, if you can look past those cracks, there's something genuinely compelling here. I believe Chaos Gate stands on a rock-solid foundation. This blend of rich 40k lore with aggressive, momentum-driven combat has a ton of untapped potential. Just imagine sequels that pit you against Khorne's frothing berserkers, perhaps while teaming up with the Sisters of Battle. It feels entirely possible for this game to evolve into an entire franchise. The potential is massive, and I sincerely hope something like that is in the works. At the end of the day, Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Daemonhunters is a damn good strategy game. It has its own identity, its own unique mechanics, and a strong foundation to build upon. If you've got a soft spot for turn-based tactics or a love for the Imperium, it's absolutely worth your time.
We are the warriors of the Grey Knights, Daemonhunters.
As always, this turned out way longer than I expected. But hey, if you made it this far, I hope that means you enjoyed it. There won't be any breaks in the XCOM likes saga, because next time I'm continuing with a game that might stir up some controversy. I am looking forward to exploring that, so make sure you subscribe to see how it unfolds. And if you liked this video, be a sugar plum and leave a like and a comment to support the channel. It really does help more than you'd think. Thank you, and I hope to see you in the next one.